Who fights for you? For me, I always wished that it would be like the Disney princesses. That it would be a knight in shining armor, but my knight turned out to be what they call a catfish. Who fights for you? Who is there to protect you from the harm? Who's there to keep you from the bullies? Who's there to encourage you along the way? I've had people along this journey who have fought for me specifically. I can see them now. Although my first boyfriend, it ended in just a really dumb way. He was the first person that I thought of in terms of love after being abused. He fought for me. We were both going through what seemed like very traumatic, like teenage things, and we found commonality within each other. And he encouraged me to keep pushing, just as I encouraged him. And the moments that we laid together, it wasn't just about us laying together; it was about us escaping the traumas around us, escaping the things that we could not change, escaping the things that had got us so caught up, the things that made us not want to be here. It was a moment of peace for the both of us. And although I believe I was more than just sex to him, the thought that that's all I was worth to him was too much to bear. But he was one of the first people who fought for me. Next was a guy named Ali. And somebody who I'd never met in person, but at the time he was like my best friend. And if you have read the book, then you'll know the story. This is a story of when my ex boyfriend at the time had told my family that I had slept with one of his brethren, and that wasn't correct. I didn't sleep with that guy. I slept with his cousin, but that's neither here nor there. Um, but they had lied on me, and I had vowed. Oh, I had poison running through my vein. I had vowed that I would kill him. That I would, if I saw him in the street, I'd pour bleach down his throat. Like I was in such a state of darkness. Like, oh, it was bad. And I remember Ali, this sexy ass Egyptian and something else. Maybe it was Egyptian and Somalian. I don't remember. I'd have to reread the story. But I remember him talking me out of it. I remember him reminding me to fight for myself, reminding me that I was loved when I felt like everything around me was darkness, when I felt like nobody cared, when I felt like this was it. I remember him fighting for me to not give up, fighting for me to think differently, to breathe differently. And I believe I had to make him a promise that I wouldn't leave this world. I'm no longer in touch with him, and sometimes I wonder whatever happened to him or if he'd even remember me. There's been different people in my life who have fought for me for years before I was even in the mindset or the place to fight for myself. And today I'm grateful that those people fought. Today I'm grateful that those people cared enough. Today I'm grateful that they had sense enough to show up for me at the time that I couldn't show up for myself. But that's not always the case, right? We don't always have people fighting for us. I mean, I know God fought for me. I know God used different people to speak to me when I wasn't turning to him, but when he felt so far away, I know he's like, you know what? I don't think she's gonna talk to me right now, so let me use this person. And so I'm grateful that he saw it fit to send people into my life. Like I have mentioned this before, but it had gotten to a place where every time I had thought about suicide, somebody would call my phone. And because at the time I was too prideful to let anybody know something was going on, I would always just be like, hey, I'm good, and play it off. And it would pull me right out of the thought of suicide. There was a hand protecting me in my darkest days, and I didn't recognize that hand. There was a voice that was soft enough that soothed me through all the moments that felt like pure destruction and that I wasn't going to breathe again. And that voice brought so much peace. Like it literally spoke over me, spoke into me, and spoke to the spirit inside of me. I'm grateful for that voice now. Because you see, I shouldn't be here. Because for the longest time, I wasn't fighting for my own life. I shouldn't be here because for the longest time, long before my son was alive, I knew that I just wanted to die. And I know I seem to talk a lot about death, but the grief of life, I was grieving the life that I was born into at the same time as trying to live it. And I need to be so honest and so transparent about how I was living. I wish more people would do that. I wish more people would show the life that they went through. Um, because there's a lot of people, believe it or not, who are like, they thought that they were the only one. And it's only when we speak up, it's only in our testimonies are people healed. Do people realize the depth of the healing that they need, the depths of the help that they need. And it's only in no longer pretending that we're able to make a difference, that we're able to do something differently. I truly wish the best for everybody who's going through a dark period, who's going through a series of not understanding, and who doesn't see themselves as valuable or worthy enough to fight. Let me fight for you. Let me be that helper along the way. And no, I can't necessarily make it all go away, but I can hold your hand as you come to the realizations for yourself. I can speak life over you. I can be the ear that listens so that you don't feel alone. Like there's so much power in moving through life together. I'm here because people fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. And then eventually I realized that I was worth fighting for. Eventually I realized that I had tried so hard to do negative things, or I tried so hard to end my life. I had tried so hard to just like live differently that all my efforts were going to waste. It was better spent that I focused on healing, or I focused on enjoying life. Like, what's the point of being on this earth if we're just going to be miserable? There's literally joy in the little things if we would take a moment to think, a moment to breathe, a moment to see what's around us. And in my darkest days, I couldn't see anything because, like, what was worth seeing? Yesterday, I talked about the cries in my heart and how my physical body was attacking me. And today, I'm talking about the beauty of the people that were placed around me that helped me fight until I felt like I was worth fighting for. I felt like there was value in my life. Like praying, people were praying for me when I didn't even know it. And because of that, I set up my life to pray for other people, to be mindful of other people, to do unto others. The things that I didn't get, I want to hand out to other people because I know what it's like. I know how hard it is. I know how challenging it is. I know how sad it feels to be by yourself. I know how lonely it is when you're taking those breaths wondering if it's ever going to get okay, ever going to be better. And I mean, suicide really just isn't the answer. And I know people are like, you don't know the despair that we go through. I do. We each have our own despair. But I know that God doesn't make mistakes. And if we're still breathing, there must be a reason. And just because we can't see it doesn't mean that the reason doesn't exist. Now, I could go on here and say people who commit suicide are selfish and all the rest of it. Being in those low places, I never thought of myself as selfish. I thought, if anything, I'd be lightening the load for all the other people who made me feel like I was a burden to them. Or it was more so about the pain that I was feeling. It had nothing to do with, I wasn't thinking about how would they feel. I mean, sometimes I did, but that's just because I became more self-aware over time. But initially, it wasn't about, oh, how's it going to hurt this person or hurt that person? It was like, how do I stop the bleeding? How do I stop the hurt? And I didn't have enough energy to fight for myself. I didn't have enough knowledge to fight for this life that felt like it was never going to get better. I didn't have enough time and discernment to do something differently than what I knew. What I knew was pain. And so I'm grateful that people had chosen to fight for me, because the fight to stay alive is honestly, sometimes it feels more exhausting, but it's less exhausting than the fight of just being dead, of just being like in a swarm of depression. And let me clarify, because I know that sounds kind of confusing, but like me making the decision every day that I'm going to live, me making the decision that God has a purpose for me, and I want that purpose and I want that life, actually comes easier than sitting in the torment of death and sitting in the torment of depression and suicide and the rest of it. Suicide takes a lot of thought, takes a lot of energy to think of how, the who, the what, the what's being left behind, the who's going to find it. Like, there's a lot of work that goes into it. I know people think that it's like the easy way out, but it is so much more challenging to do all that than to get the help that's needed and to make a decision to live, to make a decision to do something differently. And when I finally surrendered my life to God and I made the deal of life and was laying down my life for my son, I chose this sacrifice. I started to realize how much fight I was putting in for my child. And I started to see how much fight he was doing to live. And he was in pain, but he was still fighting to live. He was still fighting to be here. He was still fighting to have a smile when things were really bad. And that was so profound to me, that this 8-year-old boy was teaching me lessons of how important it is to be grateful over the small things. To be grateful over the ability to walk, talk, see, think, just be. Even just grateful to drink water. Some people are like, ugh, I don't like water. Yeah, well, there came a certain point that even water, my son's body rejected. And that was a really painful moment. Because I'm like, your own body's fighting against you. And you're still smiling. How? As I think about his birthday coming up, he's turning 17, or he would be turning 17. I think about all the memories that we missed, but I also remember all the things that we did have, all the hugs that I got, all the love that I got. And for a long time, I know people be mad that I got pregnant at 16, but honestly, I say this all the time, that my son saved my life. He came in at a point when I was a zombie. I was completely dead inside. He gave me a little glimmer of hope that I started fighting for his life. And that, coupled with the people who reached out to me, the people who told me to keep going, like, that is what allowed me to live. That is what allowed me to see a future. That is what allowed me to believe that there was more than death out there. And then after he passed, it was like, okay, well, now I got to tell his story. And as I stripped away it was stripped from me, my identity as mother from him. And that's not to say I'm not a mom. It's just here in this earth. Currently, he's not here. And so it wasn't evident up front that I'm a mother. As that identity was stripped away from me, I realized that I had made my son my whole life, that I had wrapped up my identity in him, that in my fight for him, I had lost myself. And as I continued to tell his story, I also had to carve out an identity for myself, because I am a person. I am more than just his mom. I am more than just this girl in this earth. I have a voice, and it's pretty unique. That the fight to stay alive had to be on me now. That I had to take up the torch. People had done all they could in fighting for me. I had to see the value. I had to see that I was worth fighting for. I had to see the beauty that God had placed inside me, and that my soul needed to live loudly. And so for anybody who's feeling weary or tired or just kind of done, just overwhelmed and kind of just like, ugh, this is what I say. Take a breath. Take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath out. If nobody told you this, I am fighting for you. I'm extending a hand to you. You are worth fighting for. Your mind, the way you think, the way you speak, the way you walk through this world awkwardly, it is treasure to somebody out there. It is exactly what somebody needs. You will find a tribe of people, maybe just one person. You will find somebody in this earth who is truly inspired by you and by your walk. There's nothing more courageous than fighting to stay alive. Yes, it is challenging work, but it is not as hard as laying there allowing life to just kind of bulldoze over. It is not as hard as trying to pick a way to die and leave your family with the funeral arrangements. It's not as hard as that. There is moments of joy. There's moments of light. There's moments of coming togetherness that happens. There is beauty in knowing when we need a hand. There's beauty in knowing when we need more than what is presented to us. That we can go out there and find more than the life that has been handed to us. There's so much more that we can begin to change and speak differently than what we see. Our environment can shift right before us. I am so happy that I fought. I am so happy that people fought for me. I'm going to keep saying it again. Because we go through this world sometimes thinking we don't need nobody, but quite the opposite. We need people. The Bible said it is not good for man to be alone. Then in that context, he was talking about Adam and his wife that God made, Eve. But it is not good for us to be isolated. When we're isolated, our mind runs wild. When we're isolated, so much more things can happen. It is better for us to be in a space of community. And I know sometimes community sucks. But what I did is I just kept going until I found the right one, the right fit. Till I found a space where I was loved. And a lot of it was me learning how to love me completely first. And then extending that love to other people. And knowing boundaries. The minute some person that I sought out to love was not loving me back in the same way, I mean, we can't do this. I love myself too much to leave myself in the situation and be hurt again. I would start to see red flags before they happen, and actually listen to the Holy Spirit inside of me telling me, no, don't go there. I started connecting to my mind, but like I wasn't disconnected from myself. I started understanding the different parts of me that sometimes when my spirit feels off, there's a reason for that. And if I listened to it, I would stop myself from stumbling or walking into a trap. I started to become whole. I started to become balanced. I started to become healed. And that healing made me feel complete. And so now the fight to stay alive is over. I ain't got to fight no more. What I do now is I enjoy the process. Look for the lessons in everything. And I extend the same grace that was extended to me to other people. Because honestly, we truly never know what someone's going through. I pray today that you honor your life. That you honor the breath that you were given. That you don't take it for granted. And that you know that yes, it may be painful. But there's always a way out. That leads to life and not death. So keep fighting. Hey, thank you so much for listening to the Lips and Language podcast. My name is Kola. I am so excited that you are here. If anything I said today resonated, then get in touch with me. I have an amazing mentorship program. It is for those who feel misunderstood, overwhelmed, going through grief. It is truly an amazing time. If you want more info, hit my website, lipsandlanguage.com. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can hit it up on the website or DM me. I have a free gift for you, and I would love to be in contact with you. Whatever you decide, just know that healing, it looks good on you. And I'm so excited that we get to do this journey together. Have a blessed day. And if nobody told you, I will. I love you. Enjoy your day, and we'll talk soon. Peace.